Welcome to Crossroads. Economic warfare is back on the table. The Chinese Communist Party made a new declaration on its economy, the new agenda, and the CCP wants to develop a high-tech economy, but they also want it to be completely domestic. This means cutting out American businesses and European businesses and every other one. They want to get rid of a software. They want to make sure everything that they use is made in China. And this also means the Chinese Communist Party, they're going to be looking at which foreign technologies they use and then finding ways to replace those technologies with domestic ones. Then they want to give the boot to all the Western companies that were doing it beforehand afterwards. Now, like with this, it's very likely that cyber attacks meant to feed the regime's economic ambitions are about to go into overdrive. So first off, here's the big problem with the CCP is facing when it comes to creating a high-tech economy that's all made in China. Business Insider says that China's leader Xi Jinping said the country faces several shortcomings in its race to become the world's tech powerhouse, admitting that its innovation is relatively weak and that its scientists are overburdened. But he also highlighted glaring challenges and pressed the country to focus on tech growth, which he said is now the, quote, main battlefield of international competition. And added, quote, although the country's science and technology development has made great progress, its original innovation capabilities are still relatively weak. And how are you going to become the global powerhouse on high tech? And how are you going to innovate and compete globally with that if your innovation capabilities are weak? Well, interestingly, according to Business Insider, Xi mentioned the word innovation 55 times during this speech, which was at a national conference in Beijing back in June. And he mentioned these words in context of the topics of artificial intelligence, quantum technology, biotechnology, and new energy. Now, it notes that key to his push for innovation is the idea of China becoming self-reliant, a common theme across all of his ideologies, right? Xi Jinping thought, especially as tensions grow with the West. It notes that, quote, the scientific and technological revolution and the wrestling between superpowers are intertwined. And that's the exact words of Xi Jinping. The article notes that while he did not name the United States, Xi said it was clear China would have to fix how some key core technologies are controlled by others. And so how do you fix that, right? If your economic plan is to innovate, if key core technologies are controlled by others, and you want to have all of that made in China, but you're weak on the ability to innovate, and on top of that, the West is innovating pretty quickly, how do you compete? Or even more so, how do you do that if the CCP wants it, right? Which is to become the new world leader in all this? Well, you probably have to steal it. In the past, the main program that pinned the driving policies of the CCP's cyber attacks and spies for economic theft, that project they had, that many Western analysts pinned it on at least, was Project 863. It defined several high-tech areas for the CCP to develop. Just like Xi Jinping is saying now, quantum computing and AI and so on. Project 863 talked about new materials and next-gen technologies, things part of the long-term economic ambitions for the CCP, because it was trying to break out of cheap manufacturing. It doesn't want to be the guys making like the things you buy for a quarter at the store. They wanted to become the ones manufacturing the top-tier products and have those things tied to Chinese brands. Now, eventually the CCP adopted China 2025, which was somewhat of an update to Project 863, along with other things. It was also an economic policy that revolved around high-tech ambitions, the vision of the future for the Chinese Communist Party. Think electric vehicles, think solar panels. All the areas the Chinese Communist Party, interestingly now, seems to have an overabundance of because it overproduced them. They're trying to dump it on other countries now. Well, China 2025 was also described as a type of program not only directing the CCP in economic theft, but also laying out its hostilities to the United States and the West, its ambitions notably to replace the United States as the world leader. And so the new economic plan that the Chinese Communist Party just announced at the third plenum, well, it's actually along these exact same lines. They talk, of course, about economic ambitions, but they also talk about the idea of the future of the CCP overtaking the U.S. as the world leader. Now, it hasn't really defined which areas the CCP is going to target, just a vague mention of becoming a high-tech economy, all domestically made, but that's what makes it so interesting. The CCP's new economic plan is not like the old ones, where they actually laid out several areas to copy and steal, right? They defined a few targeted technologies, and that's what they went for. The new plan is about everything. They want to develop everything they use domestically. They want to have domestic food production, no foreign reliance. They want to have domestic software, no foreign reliance. Computers, cars, you name it. Everything has to be made in China under the CCP. And that's the new goal. And the whole global ambition is still there as well. The CCP, in the new update, has a goal still to replace the United States as the world leader. But the buzzword they use for it is the creation of the multipolar world order. Again, a reference to the tearing down of the unipolar world order. The idea that the United States is the single ruler of the world, so to speak, in their eyes at least. Of course, that being the Pax Americana, or the peace under America. They want the Pax Sinica, and they want regional powers, but they want the CCP's model, the China model, to be the one that dictates all of it. And in similar ways to the CCP's former plans, like Project 863 and China 2025, it's being noted that this new agenda is not just about the Chinese economy. It's also about economic warfare. And this is where the whole CCP cyber army comes into play. Chinese hackers, they came onto the world stage really back in 2010, at least where the public could see them. That was when a large-scale cyber attack was launched against Google and then exposed. And that attack was dubbed Aurora. And that was followed by a steady stream of similar cyber attacks as well. It was revealed the Chinese Communist Party's military, the PLA, was carrying out large-scale campaigns to steal intellectual property from businesses in the United States and Europe, Canada, and elsewhere. This technology that the military in China was stealing as part of military operations was then handed off to various so-called technology transfer centers, organizations run by the Chinese government, again under the CCP. They process that, they transfer it, and then the stolen technology is eventually sent to different production houses of Chinese businesses. And so you had a direct line of Chinese hackers and spies robbing foreign countries and robbing businesses, taking the things they stole, processing that through CCP-run institutions, and then giving those to CCP-tied businesses and otherwise, which these businesses then use, right? They undercut the Western companies, oftentimes they stole the products from in the first place, competing on the international market. And this became the basic model of business warfare run by the CCP, which included, by the way, physical, human spies for the same types of operations. Oftentimes the hackers worked hand in hand with actual physical spies. And this also had ties to what's being framed as a type of strategic competition launched by the CCP against the West. And importantly, though, look, when we talk about Chinese hackers or spies gaining access to American businesses or government networks or other institutions, this also has a type of dual use. One side is economic, right? They can steal from businesses, they can damage companies, they can put them out of business, in fact. They can, of course, use it to pump up the Chinese GDP and that type of thing. But the other side is actually national security. If they gain access to these systems, right, they can spy, they can do whatever they want, but they can wage war using that access. I'll be talking more about this after a quick break.
Experts agree. One of the best ways to protect against financial uncertainty is to diversify your portfolio. Learn how physical gold and silver can secure your retirement funds from today's economic challenges with a gold IRA from American Hartford Gold. You can safeguard your wealth with no penalties or taxes when you transfer your current qualifying retirement accounts. Call now and our precious metals specialists will send you a free information kit, no cost or obligation. American Hartford Gold, a trusted industry leader with an A+ from the Better Business Bureau, has a 5-star rating from thousands of happy clients. Whether you are getting physical precious metals in a gold IRA or delivered to your doorstep, we offer only the highest quality gold and silver. For your peace of mind, we also offer a no-fee buyback commitment, a low price guarantee, along with free shipping and free insurance. So don't wait. Call the number on your screen today and secure your financial future.
Welcome back. The Chinese Communist Party recently declared its new economic agenda. The regime wants to develop a high-tech economy, and they want it to be domestic, everything made in China. This means making sure that every single thing the CCP uses and their businesses use and whatever else, it all has to be made in China. And so that means the Chinese Communist Party is going to start cutting out American businesses and European businesses. They're going to get rid of American software and everything else. This also means the CCP will now be looking into which foreign technologies and foreign products that it uses and then attempt to replicate them, steal them. And this new economic agenda also ties into a type of strategic competition, let's say, launched by the CCP against the West, and especially against the United States. Now remember, when Chinese hackers or spies, they gain access to American businesses or government networks, or they compromise one individual. All of that type of access has a type of dual use. One side is economic. They can use it to steal technology, information, the know-how on how to do the things they do. But the other side is national security. They can use that access to spy. They can wage war using these methods through various means. They can manipulate that access to bring real physical threats to a country. Now, FBI Director Christopher Wray actually warned about this just recently in January when he testified before Congress.
The CCP's dangerous actions, China's multi-pronged assault on our national and economic security, make it the defining threat of our generation. Now, when I described the CCP as a threat to American safety a moment ago, I meant that quite literally. There has been far too little public focus on the fact that PRC hackers are targeting our critical infrastructure, our water treatment plants, our electrical grid, our oil and natural gas pipelines, our transportation systems, and the risk that poses to every American requires our attention now. China's hackers are positioning on American infrastructure in preparation to wreak havoc and cause real-world harm to American citizens and communities if and when China decides the time has come to strike.
Now, Christopher Wray goes on to note the dual nature of the CCP hackers that I briefly mentioned. He described the Chinese Communist Party's cyber threat as a whole-of-government campaign against us. And he noted it's not just the hackers. It's also human sources. The Chinese Communist Party recruits American businesses, insider spies, things they use to steal information, and other things, such as corporate deception, hiding Beijing's hand, he said, in transactions, joint ventures, and investments, to do the same. And he notes these same networks are also carrying out operations, quote, across America to silence, coerce, and threaten our citizens and residents. Now look, we don't see as much in the news about Chinese hackers like we used to, right? You don't see daily articles about which businesses the CCP is hacking for the most part. But they're actually still extremely active. Part of the reason you don't hear about it is because businesses typically do not want to talk about it. If a business comes out and says, hey, Chinese military hackers stole this latest technology we have, that means that shareholders and investors are going to become wary about it because they might believe that China might have the same product on the market and they might compete with them. People will pull out their money. It affects the business. They don't want that. But there's also just a lack of reporting on it. Not a lot of media cover these things, even though on a day-to-day basis there are constant stories about Chinese cyber attacks. But look, regardless, the U.S. government's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, and other agencies as well, they've actually been explaining this. There have been some recent reports on operations that are ongoing and very aggressive. Now, this includes from the 2024 Annual Threat Assessment from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. CISA said that China remains the most active and persistent cyber threat to the U.S. government. And they note that if Beijing believed that a major conflict with the United States were imminent, it would consider aggressive operations against U.S. critical infrastructure and military assets. Meanwhile, within China, the CCP appears to be setting up a new operation to defend itself in conflicts of this nature. It looks like they're prepping for a cyber war and for a war of spies and insiders. And remember also, the CCP recently reorganized its military yet again. I'll be talking more about China's economic theft plans exclusively on EpochTV.com. That's the uncensored streaming platform of the Epoch Times. So if you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, X, Rumble, there's a link in the description below, and you can click on that, get access to the rest of this episode. And not only will you get access to my whole library of shows, but also family-friendly movies, premium investigative reports, and hard-hitting documentaries on the issues that matter, like the Chinese Communist Party's 100-year plan to defeat the United States, which I expose in my documentary, The Final War. The CCP is one of the biggest threats to America. They're using things like video games, entertainment, movies, culture, all these things to subvert and influence the next generation. The unrestricted war against our country is one of the scariest but least understood issues of our time because it's not tangible. There's no tanks or bombs. It's being done through soft power means and ideological subversion. Now, I spent the last decade investigating the CCP's subversion, and it's such an important issue that I've dedicated my career to warning people about the threats of the CCP. If you'd like to find out more about what the CCP is plotting against America, watch The Final War. You can find the link in the description below, and I'll show you all the trailer before we go exclusively to EpochTV.com for the rest of this episode. I'll see you there.
The greatest threat facing the United States is the CCP.
The Epoch Times investigation team had studied the CCP for years, but what we uncovered was yielding evidence beyond our imagination.
With Chairman Mao, with the Prime Minister, our talks have been characterized by frankness.
The Clinton administration said, oh, don't worry about it. This will be a poison pill for China.
China's strategic goal is to make sure that the U.S. has 4 enemies, and one of them must be a terrorist group.
We are giving of our life's blood so that the Chinese Communist Party can survive and thrive.